It is winter in the Valley of Urns, sometime near the year 1130. A thin sun rises over the Fjord, casting long shadows across a wooden structure unlike anything else in Christendom. Its roofline climbs in tiered peaks, and at each gable a carved dragon bares its teeth against the pale sky. This is a church, but it wears the face of a longship. For nearly 1,000 years, the Stave churches of Norway have stood between two worlds. They are Christian sanctuaries, built to house the Mass and the Gospel. Yet their timbers are carved with serpents, beasts, and pagan knotwork drawn from the Old Norse imagination. To enter one is to step into a threshold, half chapel, half saga hall. The word stave comes from the Old Norse staffa, meaning a load-bearing post. These churches are built not of stone, but of vertical wooden staves set upon a raised timber frame. The technique demands extraordinary carpentry. Every joint is cut without nails, every plank shaped to breathe with the seasons. At their height in the Middle Ages, scholars estimate that more than 1,000 stave churches stood across Norway. They rose in coastal parishes, in mountain hamlets along the pilgrimage roads. Today, only 28 remain. Fire, rot, and the reforming zeal of later centuries have erased the rest. The oldest surviving example is the church at Urns, perched above the Fjord in western Norway. Built around 1130, it incorporates carved portals from an even earlier building on the same site. Those portals give their name to an entire artistic style, the Urn style, defined by slender, interlaced beasts locked in perpetual struggle. In 1979, UNESCO inscribed Urns on its list of World Heritage Sites. To the medieval Norwegian, the boundary between the Christian and the pagan was porous. The country had accepted Christianity only in the 11th century, under the sword of kings such as Olaf II, later canonized as Saint Olaf. Conversion was swift, but memory was slower. The old gods faded into shadow, yet their creatures crept into the beams of the new churches. Nowhere is this fusion clearer than at Borgund in the Son region. Built around 1180, Borgund Stave Church rises in 6-tiered roofs, each crowned with dragon heads that echo the prows of Viking ships. Beneath those dragons hangs a cross. The message is not contradiction, but conquest. The old symbols now serve the new faith. The interior of a stave church is dim, resinous, and cavernous. Sunlight enters only through small circular openings high in the walls. The air smells of tar, for every surface is coated in pine pitch to preserve the wood. Worshippers stand rather than sit, gazing upward into a forest of pillars that seems to grow from the earth itself. The carvers of these churches were master craftsmen, often anonymous, working within workshops that passed techniques from father to son. Their portals writhe with vines and serpents, with lions and stags, with beasts that have no name. Scholars believe some of the imagery draws from the Volsunga saga, the epic of the dragon slayer Sigurd. At Hylestad, the entire portal narrates his story in wood. The Black Death arrived in Norway in 1349. Within 2 years, perhaps 60% of the population lay dead. Parishes emptied, and the great tradition of stave church building simply stopped. No major stave church was constructed after the plague. What survived by accident, by isolation, or by the stubborn devotion of small communities. In the 16th century came a second threat. The Protestant Reformation reached Norway in 1537, and with it a hostility to the ornament of the medieval church. Many stave churches were stripped of their altars and paintings. Others were torn down as too small, too dark, too Catholic. The dragons on their gables were seen by some reformers as relics of superstition. The 19th century brought both destruction and rescue. As Norway's rural population grew, many parishes replaced their ancient churches with larger, brighter buildings. Between 1850 and 1885, dozens of stave churches were demolished. Yet in the same decades, a national awakening began. Artists and antiquarians started to see the churches not as embarrassments, but as treasures. The painter Johann Christian Dahl was among the first to sound the alarm. In 1837, he published a book of illustrations documenting the surviving stave churches. His drawings reached audiences across Europe. When the church at Vang was slated for demolition, Dahl arranged for it to be sold to the King of Prussia. Dismantled and shipped abroad, it stands today in the Karkonosz Mountains of Poland. The Society for the Preservation of Ancient Norwegian Monuments was founded in 1844. It bought endangered churches outright, saving them from the axe. Among its early acquisitions was Borgund itself. Through such efforts, the 28 surviving Stave churches passed into the care of a nation that had rediscovered them as symbols of identity. The largest of them all is Hedel, in Telemark, built in the early 13th century. Local legend claims it was raised in 3 days by a troll named Finn, in exchange for the sun, the moon, or the heart of the farmer who commissioned it. The farmer outwitted the troll by guessing his name. The story is folklore, but it captures something true, the sense that these buildings arose from a world still thick with magic. The 20th century brought new dangers. On the morning of the 6th of June 1992, the Stave church at Fantoft, near Borgund, was burned to the ground by an arsonist. The attack was one of the first in a wave of church burnings carried out by figures in Norway's black metal underground. Fantoft has since been reconstructed, but the original, dating from around 1150, is gone forever. The remaining churches are now among the most carefully monitored heritage buildings in Europe. Fire suppression systems, lightning protection, and climate control guard against the threats their medieval builders never imagined. Conservators replace individual staves when rot takes hold, matching the grain and species of the original wood. The work is slow, patient, and never finished. To visit a Stave church today is to encounter an architecture with no true parallel. The Gothic cathedrals of France reach for heaven in stone. The Stave churches reach for it in pine and tar, in the dark grain of a country that grew its faith from the forest. They are cathedrals in the sense that matters most, buildings that gather a community before something larger than itself. Stand outside Borgund at dusk, and the dragon heads catch the last light. They do not seem menacing. They seem watchful, as if still guarding the little wooden world beneath them. The fjord below turns silver, then black. The church, tarred and dark, becomes almost invisible against the mountains. For 900 years, these buildings have kept their vigil above the Norwegian water. They have outlived kings, plagues, reformations, and fires. They remain what they always were, sanctuaries carved by hands that remembered the old gods, raised to the glory of the new. Half chapel, half longship, sailing quietly through the centuries.